All right, welcome to the Zone Live playoff edition number 5. Now we're heading into, guys. I tell you what, this is the fun time of year. This is what everybody works for, including us. Mostly these young men on the football field and all the coaches, but it's a lot of fun. Glad you could join us today. I'm Jack Stallard, sports editor at the Longview News Journal. To my left, Hayden Henry. To my right, Brandon Ogden. As always this year. Guys, I don't think if you look at what we got coming up this weekend, state semifinals, there's not a lot of surprises on here. I maybe see one surprise East Texas-wise, talking about Mineola, and we'll get to them in a little bit. But the rest of these teams, if you look at who we've got left in East Texas, Gilmer, John Tyler, Waskom, Tenaha, I don't see a lot of surprises there. I see a lot of teams that I think people thought would probably be there. Just general thoughts, both of you. General thoughts on this week before we get into the actual games. What have you seen from this season? Any surprises to you? Or has it just been pretty much the norm? What we expected?
It's kind of started off a little crazy here. We didn't know what was coming. Some teams found their strides down the stretch, but now, like you said, we got the teams that we thought were going to be there. John Tyler got 2 losses along the way, but have just gradually gotten better and better each week. I think you can see that. Gilmer still steamrolling along. Had the big win over Gladewater a couple weeks ago. Absolutely dominated last week against Atlanta, so now they're heading into this week with the steam that we expected at this point.
Exactly. Brandon, what about you?
I think when you talk about surprises, I think, last week there were some surprising teams still left, but then those teams, like the Hendersons and Atlantas, they fell to the Gilmers and Navasotas that we expected to be here.
Liberty Iowa last week, too.
And they fell to Argyle and our team. So, there was a lot of surprises getting to the, regional finals, state quarterfinals, but then as you get to the state semifinals, it gets to more of the teams you expect.
Yeah, exactly. And talking about teams you expect, let's get into the matchups here. Gilmer and Salina, 7:30 Friday at SMU's Gerald Ford Stadium in Dallas. Man, what a great game! A lot of people are saying this should probably be This should be the state championship game. They're playing it a week early, but 2 storied programs. Obviously Gilmer sitting at 14-0. The Buckeyes have a couple of state championships. Salina's 12-2. Salina's won 8 state championships. Thing that I dug up when I was looking for some history on these teams. They're hungry football teams in the when you look at it, because they haven't won in a while. And these 2 programs, these 2 towns, to me, they base success on state championships. Fairly or unfairly, they want state championships. And if you look at it, Gilmer hasn't won a state championship since 2009. It's not like they've been a bad football team during the past. Since then, they've gone 47-9, and they played for a state championship. Salina's got 8 state championships overall. One stretch, they won 4 in a row, but they haven't won one since 2007. Again, since then, they're 60-17. They're not a bad program. They just haven't had a chance to win that state championship. They played for one in 2008 and came up short. Just great programs. We'll get into some specifics on numbers and everything, but Hayden's going to go cover this game for us. Both of these guys have seen Gilmer play 2 or 3 times this year. Hayden, what are your thoughts on this big game in Dallas Friday?
No, it's going to be crazy. Like you said, you mentioned the history, how similar they are in the past. They're very similar in 2014 too. Just some quick numbers. Salina's averaging 47 points a game, allowing 16. Gilmer's averaging 59 points a game, allowing 15. Salina's wins are by an average of 38. Gilmer's by 44. If we're going to do common opponents, just to throw that out here, Salina beat Melissa 43-7. Gilmer beat Melissa Salina beat Melissa 43-7. Gilmer beat Melissa 63-0. So just by the numbers real quick, very similar. But the thing that stood out to me, they battled. We talked about it for 2 weeks, how they battled back, beat Gladewater, 9 seconds left, that last minute drive, and then turned around against a very good Atlanta team and actually, just dominated.
Right.
So crisp, executed so well, tackled well, moved the ball well. They're just, if you say this about Gilmer, they're hitting their stride right now, and that's definitely saying something.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the Gladewater Gilmer game was what everybody expected. I really expected a better game from Atlanta in that one, but just because they're athletic and they really were playing well at that time. But I think it showed you how good, I think you said earlier, just how good Gilmer really is. I mean, because that was a good football team. They just dominated
And
in
it made
every
me
aspect.
appreciate really how good Quadewater was. Really seeing
Exactly.
what we saw last week against Atlanta.
Yeah, the thing that jumps out on me in this one, guys, is Hayden's writing a little bit about Gilmer's defense for tomorrow's newspaper. But the thing that jumps out on me on this one are the weapons that Gilmer has, and I think people don't understand what, or they probably do. Football people do, but the thing that really jumps out is, okay, they score so many points. They've scored their lowest point total this year. Talking about Gilmer is 41 points. That was twice against Gladewater and Tatum. They've scored 50 or more points 11 times out of 14 games. They've scored 70 once. They've scored 85 twice or 85 once. Obviously, what that does to the defense. The opposing defense. I mean, they look at that and go, "Wow, what do we try to do?" But I don't think people understand what it does to opposing offenses. If you're an offense, you go into a game knowing, guys, we got to score almost every time we touch the ball, or we're going to lose this game, and that's incredible pressure for an offense, for an offensive coordinator for the other team, and that's what Gilmer does to teams.
Well, I remember last week, Hayden tweeted when Gilmer got a pick six, and I remember looking over to you and saying, Gilmer, their offense scores enough, they don't need help from their, and when you throw a pick six against Gilmer, you're just asking for trouble because their offense is going to score enough as it is.
Exactly.
And what stood out to me yesterday talking defense, Blevin Burns, one of the senior captains for Gilmer, he said, the defense is in shape because they're out there so much. They definitely take pride, and this is a quote from him, they take pride in how good their offense is, and that makes the defense want to fit the bill. And obviously with the numbers, they've definitely done so.
Right.
What I learned really yesterday was how young the defense was. I mean, there's sophomores and juniors out there making plays, and there's a handful of seniors. And another thing, Friday night against Atlanta, we're in the box, we're watching the ball. I was trying to keep track of Gilmer's substitutions on defense to write it down. I gave up real quick.
Right.
I asked Coach Traylor yesterday, I was like, "Can you give me some of your starters?" He started listing off numbers. I gave up again real quick. They got so many guys in there that rotating in and out so heavy. The depth is there for sure.
Depth, and the thing that this does is, people wonder, why is Gilmer always good? Why is Longview always good? Why is Waskom the last couple of years, Dangerfield until this year dropped off some. These programs that win and go deep every year, Carthage for so long. What you got to understand is these are extra games. These are extra weeks of practice. These young kids that they might not play much throughout the season. They're getting that extra week of practice, and they're practicing against good teams, So it's just, it's such a valuable tool. This is why Gilmer will be right back next year, I believe. Again, all those young guys on defense are getting that playing time, and you go up every day in practice against a standout football player. So it's just, man, what a program and what a ride Gilmer's had. Should be a great game.
It's going to be a great game. The quarterbacks have combined for almost 6,000 yards. We might be there all night. For Salina, quarterback Nathan Elliott completed 67% of his passes, committed to North Carolina. They got a running back, junior, and Jaron Alexander, 9.5 yards per carry. They got 8 with at least 200 yards. For Gilmer, McLean Carter, 75% of his passes, 3,454 yards. Threw his second interception last week, where Blake Lynch was there to hit the kid that picked it off, scooped up the ball, and scored. So even when Gilmer's picking off or throwing interceptions, they still can score. Chris Boyd, we know what he can do. Over 1,500 total yards. They've got 5 rushers with at least 200 yards, 4 with over 400. Chase State, I learned this is his 59th game for the Gilmer Buckeyes in his career. Wow. Chris Boyd, 58 for him on Friday. They got 5 receivers with over 500 yards. We know the numbers. We talked about them so much.
Okay. All right, guys, this is, it's going to be a great game, just weapons everywhere. Let's move on. We got a few other games to talk about before we run out of time. We can talk about Gilmer all day, and have a feeling we'll be talking about it again next week. So, moving on to the other big game in the area for us, Waskom and Sonora. 13-1 Waskom. Sonora is 11-3. That game's at 7:30 Friday in Glen Rose. Just drove by Glen Rose this past weekend, going to the TAPS state championship game to cover Trinity School. Beautiful stadium, so should be a good game. Brandon, tell us a little bit about this one.
It should be a good one. I was looking, I read a story we had in today in the Marshall paper. The quarterback from Sonora, he's a real dynamic athlete, Andres Acevedo. He's only thrown for a little bit over 700 yards, but he's ran for over 1,700 yards. But then you look at Waskom, they got 5 guys that, they got 2 that already eclipsed the 1,000-yard mark, and they got 3 that are nearing. I was looking, Dylan Benton's at 840 with, possibly 2 games to go for Waskom,
Right.
and he's the 5th on that list. So, Waskom's got, Sonora's got that one dynamic athlete, and where Waskom's got several ones. But it should be a great matchup. Sonora, I've seen they've been giving up a lot of points the last couple weeks, and where they've given up 36, averaged 36 last 2 weeks. Well, Waskom hasn't given up that much in a game all season, and Waskom's scoring 55 points a game in the playoffs. So Waskom's a team like Gilmer where when you play them, you have to score pretty much every time because they have that ability. Guys like Kevin Johnson, Junebug Johnson they can go 80 yards for a touchdown easily. So.
Yeah, a lot of athletes for Waskom, and what I love about Waskom and Whitney Keeling over there has done a great job with them. They run the football. And they'll tell you beforehand they're going to run the football. You can look at the stats, they're going to run the football. That's what they've done for the last couple of years, and you still can't stop it. Of course, they have several options that they're running. You don't know if it's quarterback's going to run or whatever, but you can put 8 guys in the box, 9 guys in the box, and you're still not going to stop this rushing attack. And that to me is just impressive. It's got to be a lot of fun to be an offensive lineman in that system. So that should be a great game. Just a couple more to talk about. We'll touch on John Tyler, 12-2 versus Aledo, 13-1. That game is Saturday, 2 o'clock at Mesquite Hanby. Wow, what a matchup! People say this one could also be the state championship game, but really like what Coach Rickland Holmes is doing at John Tyler right now. The other game, Mineola, 11-3 versus Shallowater. They're 13-1. That game's 7:30 Friday in Brownwood. I was also in Brownwood this weekend. Didn't see Gordon Wood Stadium, but I was in Brownwood. Mineola, brag on us a little bit. The zone, the season preview, we picked Mineola to win that district. Caught a little flack for that, but just I'm not going to sit and say we saw them playing for a state semifinals, but thought they did have a pretty good team, and they do. So congratulations to them. And then the last game on the list, Tenaha 11-1 versus Bremond 13-0. That game is 7:30 Friday in Nacogdoches at. They're playing that one at SFA. I thought they were playing in high school. They're playing that at SFA, Homer Bright Stadium. So, guys, a lot of good football this weekend. Again, I feel like we'll be back next week to talk about at least a couple of these teams. Be sure and pick up the Longview News Journal on Saturday and Sunday to read about them. Check etvarsity.com all through the night, both game nights. And we'll have photos, we'll have video, we'll have all the information you need to keep you going for East Texas high school football. So, guys, we're going to sign out. Appreciate you being with us, and we'll see you again next week.